with Clinch, chatting all things MMA.
Hi and welcome to the Clinch on eNCA.com, where we talk about all things MMA in South Africa and the rest of the planet. We've been on the road for a month, and who better to welcome us back to Johannesburg than the Magic Man Don Madge, fighting in 2 weeks at EFC 55 against Dave Mazany for the lightweight title.
That's right.
How are you feeling? How's the prep going?
Feeling great. I'm in the best shape of my life. Every camp I say the same thing, that I prepare hard and that I'm ready for anyone.
Because some of your past interviews, you've been asked quite often, is this the biggest fight of your career? And you've had so many big fights. You've had the title fights before. But this run to the belt this time, it's always been ruthless. I mean, your past 3 opponents you dispatched with first-round TKOs. I mean, so you agree then that really this is the prime of your life. You're primed.
100%. I feel like I've really hit my stride in terms of my overall MMA game, my fight IQ. I've also surrounded myself with the right team, you know. I'm not a one-man show now.
So you felt that way before when you were in Cape Town, and it's the move up to Fight Fit Militia has really changed you as a fighter, you feel?
100%. Before I used to kind of be the only star in the gym, or the only pro in the gym actually, in terms of MMA at least. And then, so to get that competitive edge was a little bit difficult. I had to basically outsource sparring partners, and it was a nightmare.
I think, well, I kind of agree with you, and I have to agree looking at the guys who you're fighting and training with at Fight Fit Militia, but you really came to my attention as a true mixed martial artist when you beat Costa Yanu for the belt. And he was a Fight Fit Militia fighter at the time, but you beat him in his own backyard, on the ground. You out-wrestled him for over 5 rounds before I think you sunk in the rear naked in the 5th round, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you were training at PFA at the time. So even then your ground game was improving, wasn't it?
During that time, I had a different jiu-jitsu coach, which is no longer there anymore. Right. His name's Jacques Botelli, and I do give him a lot of credit for helping me prepare for that fight. He definitely was influential in me getting that win. And also, I spent hours on the mat, getting like dominated, getting beaten, and just pushing myself like as far as I can. In fact, I came down with like fatigue syndrome 2 weeks before the fight, and I couldn't train. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything, and that's why the weight cut was so tough, because I literally couldn't do anything for 2 weeks before the fight. So 2 weeks before the fight, I didn't do anything. I think on the Monday, the weigh-ins were on the Wednesday, and on Monday was the first time I had gotten out of bed in 2 weeks.
Sure.
So I was absolutely just drained because I was pushing myself so hard.
So you overtrained?
I overtrained, like way beyond, because obviously I didn't have the resources that I have now with like teammates and different expertise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I would just do it by putting in hours and hours and hours and hours and thinking that would benefit me, you know. I mean, it worked out for that fight, but it could have gone completely the other way.
Well, that was 5 tough rounds, man.
It was a hard fight.
But you dominated on the ground. It was immensely impressive. I mean, it was. A lot of people, including me, cage side, sat up and go, "Whoa, okay, Don Madge has arrived," especially with the belt, you know.
Well, I think this is the problem, is that I was a lot younger. I was like 3 years ago.
Yeah. So you're 25 now. You're 22 then.
Yeah, it's 22, and I'm turning 26 this year. But I was a lot younger, and I don't think I was quite ready for the responsibilities of being a champion. I'd been a champion previously in Muay Thai, but it's a different world. Like the Thai lifestyle and the way that I used to live then is completely different to the way that I live now. In terms of, you don't have the media spotlight on you, you don't have any of that stuff. All the things that you do are behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Whereas now everything we do is basically covered.
But like you say, you have those resources now where you've got Rich, you've got Norman, you've got guys who've got fantastic records of Fight for Militia, and guys like Rory Diesel as well.
Exactly.
You know, advising you in terms of the weight cut and stuff. So for you'd say that in 2 weeks' time, is this the best Don Madge you're ever going to see take on Dave Mazany?
Definitely. I'm in such a good place mentally. Physically, I feel incredible. I've gotten so much stronger, and I've improved so many areas of my overall game. And I think it's the same thing. I think my style for Dave is terrible. I think I've got a very, very bad style for him, because I'm aggressive on my feet and I'm aggressive on the ground. He's a wrestler. his options are stand with me or take me down. So he's in a bad place both ways. So I think right now, at this point in my career, this is the best that I've been.
What did you make of his win over Leon Mainhardt? Because obviously your trilogy with Leon is infamous in the UFC history. And what did you make of his win? How he won the bout? It was a standing guillotine, wasn't
Standing guillotine. I think going in, I think Leon had the wrong idea of how to fight Dave. There was a point in the fight where he had a Kimura locked on, and instead of using that to finish, he tried to use it to get up. And I think he tried to match him at his strength, which was obviously the wrestling edge that he had, instead of going to maybe places that he could beat him in other areas of the game. You don't have to match someone at their strength. And that's something that I've learned coming over to FFM and working with different guys. Before, I would go into a fight and I would be like, whatever they can do, I can do better. Whereas now, I look at things and I'm like, okay, let's take an objective view of this and let's find out where we can beat this guy. And I don't think he did that for that fight. And I think it's Dave in many ways is very similar to Castellano, the way that they fight. They're going to smother you and they're going to try and look for a submission or try and TKO you on the ground. And the same thing happened with Leon when he fought Costa. Yeah.
And it's interesting talking about when you beat Costa and then the particular loss of your trilogy with Leon was that split decision loss. Does that something that still eats inside of you?
Yeah. I mean, it's so frustrating because even though I didn't feel like I was 100% prepared and mentally prepared for that fight, and I had a lot of personal things going on, I still believe I won the fight. I believe I won the fight, and as the champion, if you look at other promotions like the UFC and stuff, if the champion goes to a split decision, the champion wins.
Yeah, sure.
9 times out of 10. Yeah. And I felt like I definitely won that fight. I've asked the opinions of a lot of other people as well, and they all think that I won the fight. I mean, he did put on a really good show that night. I mean, he was on, but I still feel like I definitely got that. And that kind of messed with me mentally a little bit because in my head I was thinking, I've got this guy, I have his number, and I felt like I had won the fight. Even after the fight, like I was smiling, I thought I believed I'd won. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, man, what do I got to do to beat this guy? I could smash him for 3 rounds in the first fight, break his face, and now I'll grapple him, I dominate him on the ground. And now I still don't get the win. It put me through a bit of a dark period, especially in my career. Yeah. But I think that's every fighter needs that. Every fighter needs to have those dark moments. It's the guys that go on these long tears, these long unbeaten tears, and then they lose.
Like Costa, for example, who hasn't fought since you beat him.
Exactly. Another guy's like Fred Noman. Yeah. I haven't seen him since he.
I think he's going to come back in 2017, but I'm not sure.
He was supposed to come back like 2 years ago to fight me, but he didn't. So I don't know what. I think those moments early in my career have benefited me now later in my career.
So is something you'd like to consider fighting Leon again for a 4th time, or is it you just moved on so much?
Nah, man. I think Leon's dropping to featherweight now. It's a lose-lose for me. If I beat him, he's 3-1. Yeah. If I lose, he's 4-0. Yeah. For sure. It's a lose-lose situation. No matter how great I perform, he's still got 3 wins.
Because you've only ever lost to Leon in your entire UFC career, which is remarkable. And then the other point on your record is the draw with Boyd. Yeah. I mean, what do you? And now you're teammates together. Do you ever talk about that fight?
We talk about it a lot. Not necessarily the outcome, but just things that we did in the fight. And I still think that I take it upon myself to say that I could have won the fight if I had done more, if I had done a bit more.
It's a great fight, though. Man.
It was a great fight. It was an awesome fight, and like I said, it was good for both of our careers. Yeah. Like, if he had lost, it would have been bad for his career. He had a title fight coming up. If I had lost, it would have been bad for me. I had a title fight coming up. So the draw kind of it was good for both of our careers. Yeah, it was a hell of a fight.
It was a great fight because you're both superb strikers, probably the two best strikers in the division, and but very different styles. What's it like sparring with them now? Is it something that, again, with that Fight Fit Militia, well, you've got those guys around you, and you just grow by sparring with guys with that kind of style like Boyd?
Well, yeah, you said it best. We're very similar, but we're completely opposite at the same time. Like he's very, very elusive. He's really elusive, whereas I like to get into the pocket a little bit more. But I think we're perfect training partners because we kind of counteract each other's strengths, especially on the feet.
Yeah.
He's having to learn to stay in that zone and fire with me, and I'm having to learn to not catch so many shots coming in, especially with a guy like him who moves and he can catch guys coming in. So it's actually with a perfect blend, especially when it comes to striking.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic considering the shot to the title, and we talk about the Muay Thai, but your roundhouse is probably the nastiest kick in the entire EFC. I mean, that roundhouse, the series you put on Tyson Chelin, for example. I mean, that's bread and butter going back to your Phuket days, isn't it? Really. 100%. I mean, if you look at your Muay Thai highlights on YouTube, for example, and that's Phuket day and night, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always believed that if I can catch someone with a kick, they 9 times out of 10 are going to go down. But yeah, I mean, in Thailand, you throw like thousands of kicks like a day.
Yeah, it's so attritional, isn't it?
It's just like it's in your blood after that long.
So before we talk about then Thailand, what was your first experience of martial arts or combat sports? Because I want to get to Thailand. I wanted to talk more about Muay Thai and then the move up to Joburg and stuff.
I've been doing martial arts since I was like 4 years old.
4.
So I was put in like karate school, like all kids are. Then like I did a bit of judo at school. I've done a bit of boxing, got into Muay Thai. Like it's just, I've been in martial arts since I could do anything. Since I've been in school, I've been in martial arts.
And where was this? Where were you born and raised? What was it?
Yeah, of course. Cape Town's a beautiful place, especially as a kid. You've got the sea, you've got the mountains. My childhood was good. It was really. I was always very, very competitive. So, like, especially in team sports and stuff, I'd get very frustrated because I was doing well, but the rest of the guys aren't doing well. Or I'm pushing hard and other guys aren't doing well. I'm doing all the drills as hard as I can, but these guys are slacking. That's why I think fighting is like the perfect thing because everything comes down to me. Yeah,
sure. It's way more individualistic. You're not relying upon everyone else. So in terms of the Muay Thai stuff, you kind of completely immersed yourself in the culture. I mean, you still go back to country. I know you're at Tiger as well recently. I mean, how would you describe your experience then of going out to Thailand and just immersing yourself into this combat culture? What was it like for you?
I think it's like a defining moment in my life. Like I left South Africa like as a boy and I came back as a man. So I had to live on my own completely. I went into a country that I'd never been to before. And like you say, I immersed myself into the culture completely. I lived in like a tiny little room with other people. I stayed, then eventually made enough money where I could rent a little apartment. Some days wouldn't eat for like 2 or 3 days because you don't have money, and then you fight and you make your money and then you go and get food. And like I think those moments made me who I am now. I think if I'd gone a different route, maybe gone into something local, and had all the comforts of home and stuff, I don't think I would be the guy I am today, because I've had a lot of fights in Thailand and been in really, really dark places, and I think that's built my character.
How old were you when you went?
17.
Because there was some beatings you took.
No, I've had some seriously tough fights.
But like you said, it made you what you are. You have spoken in the past about the move to MMA, and you did it because of the paychecks. But it's difficult to make money in Muay Thai, right?
No, it was more about I wasn't able to compete in South Africa, so I was given the choice, like, am I going to live in Thailand for the rest of my life, or I'm going to come home? And obviously I had family and everything here, and I wanted to be in South Africa. At the time, also I had a girlfriend. You know, you're young,
Sure.
you think. So I wanted to be here, but when I got here, to get fights, to get anything was, I mean, I would fight like maybe like once a year. Like,
wow.
it's just not enough.
No.
And then also you get paid like $2,000 to fight, and you're going fighting for like titles that actually don't mean anything, because like in SA K1 or SA Muay Thai title, it doesn't really mean anything when you go overseas. If you go to Glory and be like, I'm a SA Muay Thai champion, you'd be like, so what?
Yeah, sure.
You know?
So when was the last time you fought just pure Muay Thai?
2014, just before I fought Boyd.
Okay. Is it something you miss? Would you ever go back to it purely? Like, do you miss just kickboxing?
It's weird because when I'd stopped fighting Muay Thai in 2010, I think. 2010. And then I got into MMA. And then I went over to Thailand and I had a fight in 2014. And because MMA striking is a little bit different to Thai style.
Yeah. You progressed so much that you couldn't rewind your style.
You can't go back.
Yeah.
Like MMA is so much quicker and dynamic, and everything's like on.
Yeah.
And it's Thai, it's like the first 2 rounds, you're kind of just like watching each other and like throwing lazy kicks and like playing around.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of like a culture shock again. You know, it's like I'd started again. And I was like, this is a bit
No,
weird.
you can't unlearn it, can you?
I think like something like K1, like Glory and stuff like that. I would love to do something like that. Even I've almost turned to pro boxing.
Oh.
Wow. Just again, I was struggling to get fights.
Yeah.
I'm a competitor, so that's all I want to do is compete, especially in something that I've dedicated my entire life to.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily have to be martial arts. It can be like I said, boxing. Like, you know, like, but I've always wanted to compete. I don't want to just be training for nothing.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But you still go back to Phuket. I mean, but I was chatting to Cyrus Fees. He actually commentated on a gig in Bangkok last month, and he was like cage side commentating. And all he could think about was like tell someone to turn the bloody music off, and and he got into it later. But just that culture of, you know, it's like I saw one of your fights at Bangla Stadium.
Yeah.
And it was, no one you can't describe like the humidity, the betting, the shouting, the music, the smoking, the whole thing. And to be immersed in that culture as a foreigner at that kind of age, like you said, it must have been an incredible experience.
No, it wasn't, and that was later in my Muay Thai career. I'd already been living in Bangkok and fighting in Bangkok, which is a completely different world. Because in Phuket, it's very, very, very much about like money, underworld. Bangkok, it's still about that because that's just the way it is. But the fights are at a much higher level.
So you fought what, Lumpania and Rajadamnern and all this stuff?
So when I was younger, I was fighting in Bangkok. Then when I started hitting like 19, 20, then I was in Phuket because I got a sponsorship from Tiger Muay Thai. So they said, come over. You can train for free. We'll take care of your accommodation, food, everything. Cool. So I was like, who's going to give up that opportunity? In fact, I had a fight. I had just come back from Bangkok, and I had a fight here locally in Johannesburg. And I fought for K1 title or something. And I destroyed the guy in like 3 rounds. And one of the guys from Tiger Muay Thai was watching the fight. And he was like, man, we'd love to offer you a sponsorship. So I was like, of course. That's actually how I got my name, the Magic Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From the Tiger guys?
Yeah,
that's a great question. Thanks.
No, so I had a fight in Thailand and in Bangkok, and someone that I had known commented on the video that I posted up, and they're like, "Oh, you were Magic or whatever." So she was like, "That should be your new fight name." So when I came back to South Africa and I had this fight, I was like, "Yeah, let's try that name out." So I put it down. I said Don Madge, and somehow the announcer screwed it up and he called me Magic Man. And ever since then, it just stuck. And
it works.
Yeah.
It works.
It works now, yeah.
But one of the strangest things I've found, it's an irony, I don't know, probably you because you're quite a disciplined chap, but if you're going to do combat training in like, in Phuket or Bangkok or Chiang Mai or wherever, And let's put it this way: there's certain distractions in Thailand, aren't there, for a young man? And it's almost like the epicenter of the world's party sometimes, Thailand.
100%.
And yet you have to be so focused and dedicated on this really tough bloody discipline. It's like an irony, isn't it? It's like you have to be so controlled and focused, and yet you're in this haven of sin and party.
Well, you see, this is the difference with like the Thai lifestyle, is that because you fight pretty much every weekend, you fight all the time. Like I fought like 3 times in 9 days. Like, it was ridiculous, and 2 of those were 5-round fights. So it's ridiculous how often you fight. It's not like an MMA fight. You fight out 10 weeks, you train, you diet, everything's cool, you disciplined. There, you fight on the weekend, you take a couple of days off, party, whatever, train for 2 days, fight again.
That's nuts.
So you're never really in that situation where you like now you like all you want to do is get the fight done and be able to like live your life.
Yeah.
There you know the partying and the fun and stuff is part of your life, which is quite crazy because like you oftentimes see the older Thai guys, the guys that have almost retired, but they'll still take fights every now and again.
Yeah.
They won't train at all, and then they'll get a fight, and 3 days before they'll start jogging. They've been drinking like the whole week, and then they're gonna go and have a fight. Because when you fight that much, those guys like 400 fights deep, a fight isn't something like we take it now.
Yeah.
It's like this big event, and all the eyes are on you. It's a fight. You're gonna go there and have a scrap, get paid, and go have a party. That's why I say like the lifestyle there is completely different to the lifestyle I'm leading now.
Radical. So let's move back to South Africa, specifically Cape Town. And I know a lot of people talked about the move you made from Cape Town to Johannesburg. I mean, there was a lot going on. What were your thoughts and emotions about making that move at the time?
To be honest, like it was quite scary. Like you never know what to think. Especially I started my MMA career with one team, and I was there for 4.5 years. Like it's a long time to go from something that you trust, you're in your own home, it's the people you started with. It's difficult.
Sure.
So the initial move was really, really difficult. But it's one of those places like you fit in or you don't fit in. And then I was fortunate enough that I found my spot.
So you moved up to fight fit. I mean, just staying with Cape Town, though, you were fighting there in 2 weeks, and it must be great to still be fighting in your hometown. I mean, will you always be a Cape Townian, or are you always bound to be a nomad? Is it still home for you?
Of course. It breaks my heart every time I leave Cape Town. But you make sacrifices for the future. I know that this is temporary. It's not always going to be like this.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Cape Town's always going to be home, and
Cool.
I love being in Cape Town. And if I had the choice, I'd take the whole team and move them
Really?
there. But
I'm sure some of them would go with you.
yeah, but that's not the way it works.
One of the things I really like about the fights, EFC fights in Cape Town, is that the crowd really seems to be at a higher level of knowledge about the sport. They're really appreciative of an all-round MMA skill set. I mean, how much has the fighting scene in Cape Town changed from when you started to where it is now?
I mean, kickboxing has been quite big in Cape Town for a while. It's been I mean, the fight scene's quite big. It's not like Johannesburg, because Johannesburg's like quite deep into boxing, and obviously this is where EFC started. But the crowd, they love the fights there in Cape Town. I mean,
Yeah.
I think almost every event's been sold out in Grand West, which is awesome, and I'm fortunate enough to be on most of them, which is pretty cool too. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but
No, I think it is. It is. It's probably very well planned, and for a good reason too, because you're such a fantastic draw on the main card. And the last time you were that draw on that main card and you fought in Cape Town was against Joseph Costa, and you did train with him. I know I'll move on really quickly about it, but was it weird? Was it strange? You trained with that guy for quite a while. I mean, it was a unique situation.
I think the strange part for me is that he had all this resentment towards me over stuff I didn't really understand. I didn't understand where all this came from, and I never really had an emotional investment in the fight. When they offered me the fight, I was like, okay, it's another fight. It's another step to the goal, Whereas for him, it was this emotional thing, like he wanted to teach me a lesson. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know what the story was, man. Like,
Right.
at the end of the day, the results are the results.
Yeah, no, it was a good fight, and you were bloody good. So moving up to Joburg, then I know you've talked about in the past about moving to 5 Fit Militia, and we spoke about how you're surrounding, yourself with, a whole bunch of sharks, and they're a great bunch of guys and fantastic fighters. Rich and some of the best trainers on the continent. But what, in terms of your skill set, has FFM brought to you?
I mean, man, I could talk forever. I could talk
Yeah.
forever about that. I think that the greatest thing about FFM is that everything we do is based around mixed martial arts. There's not like a session that you do and you look and you're like, well, this wouldn't really work in an MMA fight, would it? Everything we do is based around mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's classes that are focused on different areas of mixed martial arts,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I think that was my biggest problem, is trying to link my stand-up game to my jiu-jitsu game and my jiu-jitsu game to my wrestling game. Trying to link all those things together. It's a bit difficult when you're in a gym that only does jiu-jitsu, because those guys aren't really interested in a position where I can hurt you from. They're looking for a fancy sweep,
Sure.
I think that's the biggest skill that I've learned, is how to link everything together, and also be objective about your strengths and your weaknesses.
So it's made you, what you're saying is taught you a bit of humility.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The greatest thing about FFM is that everyone has one person's number. There's everyone has their kryptonite in the gym, and we all know who they are.
Yeah.
And some guys have two,
Yeah,
or
sure.
3 or 4. But that's the greatest thing, is that you learn that losing on the mats doesn't mean you're going to lose in the fight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that are stars in their gym, they never get that experience. They never know what it feels like to be beaten on the mat.
Yeah.
And then get beyond that,
Yeah.
That's not the be-all and end-all of your life, that you've tapped on the mat or someone took you down or whatever,
I think if you find yourself being submitted like so many times in one training session, it's actually quite healthy for your ego.
100%. I think there's a very famous saying that, like, a black belt's only a black belt because he's tapped the most in the class. And I think that's very true. The guys that are teaching, like Richie and Chef, they're doing that because they have tapped the most out of all of us in that gym. And I think that's a huge thing that every fighter needs to learn.
Yeah. So the other thing I like about the place is, about the times I've been there, it's just the kids running around. There's families. There's the women's classes that Shana's really doing really beautifully in the morning and the evenings and stuff. There's the kickboxing with the ladies. It's about a lifestyle, isn't it? It's about a community.
100%.
And I don't find it any coincidence that, with this appreciation of womanhood at 5 Fit Militia, that, you've given props to your mum a lot for being a very integral part of your life. I mean, how do you honour that as a man in terms of having women in your life that are very strong and important to you?
Well, my mom was the one that used to take me to my first ever Muay Thai lesson. She was the one that used to drive and, like, wait for me for 2 hours, or sometimes like I'd go before school and then after school, and she would just sit in her car and wait, or sit upstairs and wait. So I owe everything to her. She was the one that basically, motivated me. And like on the days where I was like, oh, I don't feel like training, she's like, no, come, you got your session at 5:30. Come,
Really?
let's go. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
That's
You got
cool.
all your stuff? Yeah, I've got all my stuff. So, I'll never that'll never ever be forgotten. And she's also one of the only people that have seen pretty much all of my fights.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, she's seen pretty much all of my fights, which is quite incredible, because I've had a lot of fights, and like she's my number one fan.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. So let's move on to the fight in 2 weeks' time. I mean, it's your second bite at the cherry, really. But this particular run to the title, like you said, you've matured, you've come a long way. Like I said, your past 3 fights, first round TKOs. You're saying in the best prime of your life. I mean, is this the best Don Madge you're going to get to see to fight Dave Mazany?
I think so. I mean, I feel incredible. I just feel like this is my time. it's almost weird. It's my 5th year anniversary on the 11th of November from my debut, and it feels like I've had the title, I've lost it, I've gone for it again, I've lost. I've had all these ups and downs, and like now I'm on a tear. I'm with the right team. It just feels like all the stars are aligning right now, you know, and I'm in the best shape and the best mental space that I've ever been in.
So what's the future hold for you, Don? I mean, you're still so young at 25, and you've achieved so much in a fantastic career. Where do you want to go from here?
I take things one day at a time, man. Right now, the goal is getting this title. From there, we've been looking at a lot of different options. Obviously, I'd love to defend it, but you know, international fights. That's international fights. I want international exposure. Fighting internationals like Dave, like Jadison. That's what I want. I want my name to be put on the map, and I want people to be able to see my skill sets.
Of course, your teammate Gareth McLean is a UFC fighter. Have you thought about being based in with the Las Vegas promotion at any time?
I mean, UFC's every MMA fighter's goal. You know? That's the pinnacle of the sport. It's like the Premier League, you know. It feels like it's around the corner. It feels like I'm right there, and I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for the step up in competition. That's why it's great to have an opponent like Dave. Yeah. A guy that's also been on the cusp of the UFC. He's beaten some guys that have gone on to fight in the UFC, and I think a win over him would definitely cement myself in a position that I could move on to bigger things.
Yeah. Well, you're both great fighters, both great guys. We had Dave in the studio before, and I can't wait for that fight. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Don Madge, thank you so much for coming in. The Clinch on eNCA.com. We're talking about all things MMA in South Africa. Our guest today has been Don, the Magic Man Madge. Well done, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Clinch, chatting all things MMA.